Welcome back to Wordy Nerdy. Today on the podcast, we'll be talking about The Last of Us, a show that has zero controversial episodes.
Yeah, we watched The Last of Us, and so we decided to wait until the end of the series to kind of just recap on all of it and talk about what we thought. So let's start with just like sort of preliminary, just first impression thoughts. For context, John has played through the whole games. I have not. I keep saying I've literally been saying I should play that game since it came out, and I just never got around to it. But I may still do it. But anyway, John has. So I was coming into it from the perspective of a non-gamer, and John was coming into it from the perspective of a gamer for this franchise. So we'll have sort of differing opinions on some of the stuff. But with that being said, John, what are your first thoughts or impressions?
Oh, I love the show. It's fantastic. It makes the story a lot better sometimes, which I'm surprised because the game story is already phenomenal. I'm just surprised with the stuff they added, which we'll go into throughout this episode. Like the Bill storyline, they completely changed that from the games to the show. And I know some people like the Bill in the games, and some people like Bill in the TV show. I like the Bill in the TV show way more. I'll be honest. What they did with Bill brought a lot of heart to that character because Bill is not super important in the games. He's there in like one mission really, and then you never see him throughout the game for the rest of the time. But I do get what people say. He did have a dynamic with Joel, and pretty much that whole thing was Joel and Bill talking shit to each other pretty much the whole entire time. So it's pretty fun, but having a meaning story with how someone lives their perfect life, the best type of life you could probably live.
Certainly in these circumstances. Yeah, no, I mean, the whole idea, first of all, Nick Offerman did incredible. When I saw that Nick Offerman was going to be in the cast, I assumed he was going to be around for more than one episode, frankly. It's funny because he starts out as such like a classic, like right-wing prepper type. And then, like Ron Swanson on steroids. And then, but then he meets this guy Frank in his one of his traps because he's got all these like MacGyver type traps everywhere, and he meets this guy who was like running from the people, and they end up falling in love. But it's crazy, like they had this dinner scene, and then he sings this like love song on piano, and then he admits he's gay, and it's like a whole beautiful, like it's the whole thing is just very beautiful and unexpected. And I just know I delight in my soul to know that there were so many fucking like conservative types who probably turned that on and were like, oh yeah, this is just like me. What a Chad. What a don't tread on me. What an alpha. He's got a million guns. He's so cool. I love this guy. And then he's gay. And then they're the devastation that must have filled their hearts is so delightful to me. It is delicious. I must drink their tears. He's gay, bitches. He's manly and gay. Suck on that.
And that was only implied in the games that he was gay. It's not really shown that much that he was gay or that he has a lover. In the games, his friend hanged himself instead of them living a happy life and everything.
I think that they fleshed this out like really well compared to what I've heard, for the games, barely fleshed out those characters. Frank was barely a character unto himself. He was a huge character in this. I also just love, just from a representational aspect, seeing not only gay love, but older gay love between two men who are not who are pretty traditionally masculine. I hate to say it, but that's just not the kind of representation we see for LGBTQ representation on TV most of the time. It's like, if you get gays, they're going to be like super over the top flamboyant, or like just a pile of stereotypes, or they'll be young, very young. And to see like a gay couple grow old together and, be who they are. Of course, there's nothing wrong with being more feminine or masculine or whatever, but I'm just saying, to see that level of representation for the fact that not every gay is Frankie Grande, I think that is just, it's really beautiful to see, and really beautiful to see that like love that that blossomed out of that.
Every change they added actually was meaningful. And I think one of the main reasons why that is the case compared to other video game adaptations, because Neil Druckmann, the person who wrote the video games, was also directing some of the episodes with a co-director.
Yeah, I think that's a huge part of it too, is having the original game's voice on the show. To me, it was great for a number of reasons. It was great because we were able to get that authentic sense of the characters that, were expanded upon, from the person who originated these characters. It's great because he got an opportunity to kind of go over how he told certain aspects of the story and tell them in a different way, or build upon them, or do something, or change a few things. Like making Sam deaf, for example, like doing something like that wasn't an element in the game, but added a whole new dynamic to the show. And being able to sort of, I think it's cool. I think any creative would revel at the chance to kind of be able to do something that they did over again and like change things, not because what you did before was bad, but just because you'd be like, oh, I should have done that, or I could build on that idea. And also because it was a perfect response to any of the fanboys who got mad about certain changes, or were like, oh, this gay shit in my movies, this isn't like the original, whatever. It's like, you can't say that like the director didn't approve of it, because he literally is the one who wrote the story. So it's like, shut the fuck up. It's kind of like with like when George R. R. Martin is on the writing team for House of the Dragon, and apparently he took a larger role for season 2, which means they must have been fucking up the story, I think. But Sarah Hess, you must be stopped. But but because he was a big part of the creative process of House of the Dragon, A, you could feel it in the storytelling, feeling very genuine, and B, when people would complain about shit like the Valarians being black, it's like literally George R. R. Martin said it was okay, so it's okay. Like, get the fuck over it.
Yeah, that's one of the number one things, because, like you said, most other video game shows don't even have a creative person who directed the original thing. It's just a bunch of two fans, supposedly. Not really fans, if they don't really...
The D&D effect.
Yeah, the D&D effect, basically, thinking they're better than the source material.
Yes.
And just basically doing whatever they want. It doesn't matter if it's in line with the books, or you're trying to add something to make the source material better. Just do whatever
I cannot stand that thing from Writers' Room specifically. That whole thing about they took on the project because they hated the source material. Stop taking on writing projects for stuff that you hate. Why do that to yourself or to the fans of that thing? I'm looking at you, fucking Velma, like Mindy Kaling. Like, why do y'all keep making these like remakes and shit and giving it to people who clearly have this like contempt for the source material? And the same thing with Sarah Hess, like I said, with House of the Dragon writing team. Several, like they're writing and they're saying like, well, I hate how in the books Damon was like this, so I'm going to change it to be that. If you hate the books, then don't take on the job. You are an established writer. You can get another job. Why are you working on a show that you hate the premise of, if you're just going to dramatically change the source material? We don't want you to do that shit. We want you to be faithful. If you hate the source material, like, not everything is for everybody. It's fine if a certain source material is not to your taste, but then don't adapt it. I'm not much of an anime person. If somebody was like, right on the Cowboy Bebop script, I'd be like, what the fuck? I wouldn't be the person for that. I'm not going to like take it over and fuck it up for the people who do care about that and be like, well, I don't care about the source material, or I didn't like the source material, I'm going to change this and that. It's like, just do something else. Just write on a different show that you don't hate, or make a new original idea. Stop rebooting franchises and destroying everything that everybody loved about those franchises.
It's the same case with Star Wars. They always come out with saying, this one hated the originals. This one hated the prequels. This one... It doesn't matter what you hate. Just say that you enjoyed Star Wars and you're a fan. You're coming in doing the best you can. Why do you have to come out and say, I hated the thing I'm working on? Why are you telling us that?
Don't. And a lot of, it's like, if you're like a lower level staff writer or whatever, and that's just the best job you can get, I get it. But like, a lot of these people are established writers who have been known to work on many projects. And so it's just like, because if they weren't established, then nobody would even bother writing an article about it. And so It's like, or the Wednesday thing with the whole like how they portray the Addams family and like forget the whole like they're supposed to really love each other bit. Like I just don't understand adapting things and just radically changing fundamental aspects of the original. Like it's fine if you want to update some stuff, but like what the hell?
Well, it's part of the reason because Hollywood hates having new ideas, so they have to take these original
Even though what fucking swept the Oscars this year?
or new idea.
Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, which was the single most insane fucking movie I've ever seen. It was a masterpiece. It deserved every award. But, like, it was a masterpiece in editing and styling and color grading and scripting and story. It was just incredible. But, like, it was so weird. Like if you were to just go into the room where the Academy of mostly elderly white people are sitting around a table and you're like giving them a basic pitch of the movies that came out that year, and you're like, okay, so this one has scenes where a girl fights with dildo nunchucks and a dude tries to shove a butt plug up his ass, and then he shoves up some basketball trophies, and then a lady in her 60s does kung fu with an accountant, and then she like goes to another universe where she's married to the accountant and they have hot dogs for fingers. If you said that, they'd all have heart attacks, but but it worked.
Yeah.
I love that more and more movies these days are just making the villain family trauma, like Encanto, like Frozen 2, like all of these movies. The villain is just family trauma or intergenerational curses. Like,
well, that's also the same case with The Last of Us, too.
Yeah, true. Circling it back to The Last of Us, because I don't even know how we got on that, but oh yeah, new ideas. But anyway, yeah, circling it back to The Last of Us, I think The Last of Us, I think nails a lot of its themes super well, because a lot of The Last of Us themes, it's like, it is themes of survival, it is themes of endurance, it is themes of family, and how far would you go to protect your family? And it's like the whole way that I love stories that play with the idea of like morality and like the idea of, what circumstances would lead us to do certain things, because because you can present something like objectively and, get people to feel a certain way about it. Like, oh no, of course, killing all those people, that would have been wrong, blah, blah, blah. But you can contextualize it in such a way that you can understand it. And even if you can't, quote unquote, morally justify it, you get it. Because when it comes down to it, humans, we're a pretty fucked species. And we don't always do the objective moral thing. And especially when it comes to like the things that we care about or the people that we care about. And so it's stories of like family and endurance, and also stories of revenge and the toxic cycle that it perpetuates. Very similar to the themes in like Game of Thrones, where it's like revenge begets revenge, begets revenge. Like if you are acting in such a way as you want to exact vengeance, it's not going to bring that person back, and it's going to cause more pain to your life. Kathleen dies in pursuit of vengeance and gets her whole crew killed because of a vain pursuit of vengeance that would have given her nothing in the end of the day, for vengeance for her son, vengeance for her brother, but like killing children because, that would have balanced it out or whatever. Or, Joel and killing the guard in sort of a subsequent revenge for killing his daughter Sarah, and even though it wasn't the same guard, but like he had that flashback. Or just like drive for making someone suffer the way they've made you suffer can be really destructive.
The reason why The Last of Us is such a good game, I would like to believe, is because of the ending. Like, you can understand why Joel killed all those people. It makes sense in your head because you followed him on his journey, you know what he went through and everything. But then you cannot also understand the other side, where you're like, well, he could have saved the whole world there if he just let Ellie live. But Ellie die, I mean. But you don't. Then it brings them to questions like, okay, could they actually get the cure? What happens if it was a false thing? And then you start to understand why Joel killed him. And then you start being like, well, you gotta remember all those bloaters outside the door trying to tear us apart.
Yeah, I mean, well, exactly. It's complicated. And what Joel does at the end is ultimately, from an objective standpoint, selfish. Because, you know, it's like the trolley problem. Like you can if it's objective and you don't know anybody personally, you can easily say sacrificing one girl for the survival of humanity is, you know, correct. I mean, I'm not necessarily agreeing with that, but I'm saying there are plenty of people who would make that argument. And like, you know, like I said, the trolley problem of, you know, do you kill the one person or do you kill three people? It's like if you're in a situation where you have to make that kind of impossible choice, is it not worth killing a few to save the many? And the idea that, like, for Joel, it's like, fuck that. Like, he's not losing someone again like that. And and I agree. I think that the Fireflies are fucking stupid, and like their whole like, oh, you get the only like living example of an immune person or whatever, and the first thing you want to do is give her a fucking lobotomy. Like, what? You could do so many things without killing her. You could take some blood, some tissue samples, some biopsies, like do something. Like, how is that your first go-to? It's like everybody's always running and chasing and trying to escape being hurt by other people because it's just an endless cycle. And I like how, you know, the basic theme is the monsters aren't really the zombies. The zombies can't help themselves. The monsters are the people. The monsters are the show really is just showcasing how monstrous people can be. And I know some people complained about how there wasn't as many zombies as there could have been. And I get it, but I honestly am glad that they didn't like overdo the zombies, like no zombies in every episode. Maybe they could have done a few more. But I feel like because you never knew when a zombie would show up, there was always that tension there. And because so I feel like it had this overarching sort of feel of the tension of not ever knowing when you'd run into a horde of infected. And also just like, you know, the tension of realizing that this isn't really humans versus zombies. This is humans versus humans in our fucked up world.
Well, to bring about that, this is someone who watched Walking Dead at least like seven or nine seasons. God, I'm doing a video about that, but one of the main complaints I have about the show is eventually zombies get boring. Like, they get boring really fast in that show. Like, they don't become that scary anymore because you see them every single episode. And they don't do anything creative with them after a couple seasons. It's just like, oh, the zombie's walking up. Oh, it's walking up really slow. Oh no, it's gonna bite that character. Oh, they bit the character. Okay, that's it. While this scene in episode 5, where the bloater and the rest of the affected, you actually understand how humanity died. Because the zombies in Walking Dead, they walk super slow, and you do not understand how they lost.
So when that horde comes up after Kathleen and her crew, and they come up and they just keep coming in an endless swarm, you see immediately, like that, if you didn't see it before, that is the episode where you realize, like you said, how humanity got infected. Like, oh, humanity doesn't stand a chance against these motherfuckers. Like, absolutely not. You can absolutely see how everybody got fucked up real quick by them things. Because, I mean, and there's a reason that Indonesian lady was like, bomb the fuck out of everybody.
And that's another scene that they completely... apparently it's off of notes or stuff you read in the game. God, I don't even know. But that added a lot to the thing. Like, you understand how this came about, this affection and everything. And it really adds something, knowing how this came and knowing how society finally crashed. And you actually feel this dystopian feel. And a lot of shows cannot even capture that really well because they don't have the budget for it or something like that. Because in this show, it was just straight up like the game. It felt like a dystopian apocalypse.
Yeah, it really felt like real. Like that very first episode where they do the flashback where the like scientists are talking and they talk about how something like this would be possible if like global warming were to get worse, and like you're sitting here in 2023 like so anyway, I would say, you know, the first season was very compelling to me. It was very well put together, and it was just, you know, peak prestige television, just as enjoyable as like House of the Dragon, maybe even a little more so, because I'd say that they got more out of the characters, even for the ones that were only in a few episodes. I really do like the way that they change certain things to like change certain dynamics between certain characters, or just, you know, improve certain characters, or even just adding characters like Kathleen to give those, like, the people like personality and motivation. It's all just pretty solid stuff. So yeah, I would say that I really enjoyed season 1, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do next.
Well, everything they have added for season 1 was phenomenal. The new characters, like Aaron has spoke of, is amazing. And everything that I wanted out of this show was improved upon. And I guess the only complaint I kind of, well, it's not really even a complaint, because people complain about the zombie thing, but I don't agree with that thing either. I don't really even have a major complaint about this show at all. Do you at all for this show?
Not a major complaint, no. I mean, you know, like I said, there's always little things. I do feel like the last episode maybe could have been a little longer, or maybe split into 2 episodes. I felt it was a little bit rushed, but that's about it. What are the you have some information about, like, what the Drutman has confirmed for season 2?
Well, Pedro Pascal has came out that they're probably going to start filming late this year, season 2 and stuff. They also confirmed that it was going to be split up into multiple seasons. My guess is probably 1 or 2, and that will give them time to probably make Last of Us 3 if they decide to make Last of Us 3, which most likely they will after the success of the show.
Yeah, I don't see why they wouldn't, you know, keep riding this cash cow.
Yeah. And plus, this is like the biggest Naughty Dog franchise game right now, because Uncharted pretty much is over, and that Uncharted movie with Tom Holland did not kickstart a franchise at all.
Oh boy.
I don't know why. They had Mark Wahlberg and Tom Holland.
You know, there's an Uncharted reference in Last of Us.
Really?
The taco place. It's like Macho Taco or whatever.
Oh.
That's mentioned in Uncharted.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. But they also apparently had Nathan Fillion or something as in the movie too.
Yeah, but not as like the main character.
No. I just don't get.
I just don't understand casting Tom Holland in that. I mean, I've never even played Uncharted, but I know that the character is older than like Tom Holland is. So Tom Holland has been playing a teenager for several years now. I just don't see him playing an older character like that.
Yeah, even in the first game, Nathan Drake was like in his 30s.
Yeah,
and stuff. So it made no sense for them to cast a 20-year-old person to be the main character.
Now he's 25 or 26.
Oh, 25.
He's the same age as you.
Okay, then explain Sully then. Sully's supposed to be an old man, and they cast Mark Wahlberg. Well, they didn't even give him a mustache.
I'm against Mark Wahlberg being in anything because I have a personal vendetta against Mark Wahlberg. But for those if you haven't look up the multiple hate crimes that Mark Wahlberg has committed. If you want a fun little Wikipedia journey. Anyway.
Or if you want to see how fucked up Hollywood is.
Yeah, seriously.
But yeah, they already confirmed that it's going to be multiple seasons. My guess is probably 2. I don't think they could stretch it out to 3. Do you think they're going to increase the amount of episodes? Because this was only 9 episodes.
I would hope they'd move it to at least 10. I don't even see why. I think 9 is a weird number of episodes. I feel like this season could have been rounded out with the 10th episode. I mean, House of the Dragon had 10 episodes. That was the standard for Game of Thrones until season 7. So I feel like they should, make it 10.
Yeah.
And at least 10 to 12, really, even. Because, I mean, you could stretch that. Even if you made it 12 episodes, that's 3 months worth of content right there. Mm-hmm. And, that's about as long as, like, a regular TV season. And I totally agree with people who say that they prefer the weekly release thing. I don't like binge drops. I don't really like when they drop the whole season because it's like, you're going to watch it at a different time than somebody else is going to watch it, and not everybody's talking about it at the same time. Rarely you get a situation where pretty much everybody watches something at roughly the same time, like when Squid Game came out. where word of mouth just, oh, you got to check out Squid Game, so people watched it and were able to join the conversation. But like in most cases, you'll hear a show that comes out and you're like, oh yeah, I'll check that out, and then you don't think about it. But if it's a little overwhelming to start a show that has like its whole season dropped at once. But if okay, if I tune in every Sunday at 9, I'll get a new episode of this. And plus you get a week to process the episode, which I think is very useful, because sometimes there's a lot emotionally and everything else that happens in the episode that you got to really process before you just jump to the next one.
I 100% agree with you. That's why I really liked House of the Dragon too, because of how weekly it was. The only successful binging thing, like you mentioned, would probably be Squid Games and probably Stranger Things.
Yeah.
That was it. Because everyone, as soon as they release a new season of Stranger Things, if you're a diehard fan, you pretty much stay up the whole night and watch the whole season.
Yeah.
The whole first time. I know I did, at least. And so.
Yeah. I mean, I think, and even then they dropped it. Netflix dropped it they dropped the season in 2 different parts.
Yeah, they did.
And I think they mentioned that they might move to a weekly release by the next, for season 5 or whatever. Because I just think, it's just, honestly, I'm going to sound like an old person saying this, but it takes me back to like the days of network television where shows would come out, prestige television would come out, did you catch the new episode of the blankety blank? It was something that you could say because one episode came out a week. And so I feel like I love being able to get online and see like memes and conversations happening based on the previous episode of House of the Dragon or Last of Us or whatever. Everybody's on the same page and not nobody's like watched 4 episodes ahead and everything like that. And it also means that there's usually fewer spoilers under the tag because everybody's watched the same amount of episode.
Yeah, but overall, I think this show was phenomenal, and I cannot wait for season 2 and stuff, especially what they have proved in season 1. They are not afraid to make changes if it fits the story better, if it actually adds more to a character or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Then they have proven that these changes are actually good, not like the good old Game of Thrones guys did.
And everybody who was trying to talk smack about Bella Ramsey, eat your fucking words, because she did phenomenal. I think anybody who expressed doubt that she could do Ellie, I think she proved them all very wrong.
Yeah, they are perfect casting in this show. They are straight from the games. It's phenomenal. And I don't have any problems with any character in this game or any actor in this TV show. It's so amazing.
Yeah. Definitely looking forward to Sweep the Emmys coming. Honestly, the Emmys are going to be interesting because I'm sure that Last of Us and House of the Dragon are going to be nominated for quite a few. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
What would you want to win, House of Dragon or Last of Us?
I think I would want Last of Us to win for Best Show because I think it's slightly better. I do still kind of want Paddy Considine to win, like, supporting actor, but Pedro would be lead actor, so he wouldn't even be in competition for that. Mm-hmm. So I would still say, like, I would want Paddy Considine to be Best Supporting Actor because of or Matt Smith for their roles in House of the Dragon.
Who would be the best supporting for this show, you think?
I'm not sure if they would nominate some. Possibly the lady that played Tess, maybe. But I'm not sure that they would nominate. Because then, you don't have to nominate for every category. Yeah. And I'm not sure. Because, I would say that Pedro and Bella are both leads. Like, they're twin leads. Yeah. So, Bella is technically the main character but of the whole franchise. But, like, I calling Pedro a supporting actor doesn't sound quite right. So I feel like they would both be up for, like, lead.
Yeah, because most of the supporting characters in the show, they're mostly in it for like one episode, and they're not throughout the season.
Yeah, and also I think individual episodes should definitely win an Emmy. Like, I feel like the episode with Nick Offerman, the 3rd episode, should win an Emmy just by itself. Like, even with the show itself, because you can also win awards for individual episodes, and that episode deserves an Emmy by far.
I would say, what episode of House of Dragon deserves an Emmy?
The one where Paddy Considine's character dies.
Yeah.
The one is like episode 8 or whatever. Because that scene where the music is playing and they're having dinner or whatever, and he's like enjoying this last moment with his family, and then he dies and stuff. That shit was peak. I think that's when the show hit its peak. So I think that episode deserves a win as well.
Yeah, I definitely 100% agree. So, Wish You Max, you're still killing it with these series. Sadly, I don't think you have anything upcoming this year.
Yeah, I mean, they really, they've dropped these two and they're successful, but it's like, what do they have left? I mean, Velma season 2, like, what else is there to look forward to? It's time to cancel your HBO subscription until the next interesting show comes out.
There's Succession, I guess.
Yeah, I guess, until they randomly delete that like they did with Westworld.
God, I don't even know what happened to Westworld. I didn't even watch the
They just like nuked it off the planet.
Yeah.
I'm like, it was. I mean, as far as I never watched it, but it was a good show from what I heard. So I'm like, what the hell?
It was a good show. I watched like 3 seasons. I was planning on watching the latest season, but then I heard they just canceled out of blue. I'm like, well, I don't really feel like watching it.
And even Netflix took off Arrested Development, even though the last 2 seasons of Arrested Development were Netflix produced. Like, I just don't understand. Like, streaming is really scaring me at this point.
It's because those last 2 are horrible.
I mean, those last 2 seasons were bad, but still, the show itself is a classic. And why get rid of it? That's one of those shows just like The Office where people consistently rewatch. I mean, I would go back and I would bounce back and forth between rewatching Community and rewatching Arrested Development because they're both really quality shows. I think you can still watch Arrested Development on Hulu, but it's just, why? I just don't understand why they do things like that. Streaming services suck.
Boo!
I mean, it's just interesting because streaming services were presented as like the alternative to cable, and now they're just as bloated and fucked up as cable. I am seeing here, back to The Last of Us, that the IMDb rating for The Last of Us overall is 9.2 out of 10. So that is a very high rating for IMDb. Seems safe to say that it was well received by audiences. Unfortunately, episode 3 and episode 7, I think, were review bombed by homophobes. So they're the lowest rated of the season because a bunch of jerks were like, ooh, gays, 0 stars.
And for the people who are homophobic, you're not going to like season 2.
No, you're not. I don't understand. It's like, watch a different show then. Like, if you're going to get so mad that like gay people exist, like, bro, get over it.
Yeah, so deal with it or watch a different show.
Oh my god. Yeah, so, but I mean, honestly, I think those episodes were some of the highlights of the season. But I mean, the whole season was good.
Yeah, you mean Gay Up? That was amazing.
Gay Up, yes. The first 15 minutes of Up, but gay. Oh, well, they also confirmed that Bella Ramsey was not going to be recast. Because some people were saying, some people were suggesting that she would be recast or should be recast because she's supposed to be older. But that doesn't make any sense to me because, like, A, she will be older when they start recording that. And she's already 19. Like, she was pretending to be 14. But she's already the age that Ellie is in the second game. So, like, all she has to do is dress less youngly and she'll read as older. Like,
I didn't even know that. I didn't know that was even a rumor that was going around.
Oh, yeah. There were people saying, oh, she should be recast because she's supposed to be older. I'm like, and taller and different. I'm like...
No. No.
Like, can you imagine? I mean, even, like, people complained about them doing that in House of the Dragon, and at least both those actors were really good, but, like, and they both got half a season, but, like, can you imagine tuning into season 2 and it's a completely different Ellie? Like, no, thank you.
And, like, that would ruin the show.
Yes, it would be awful. It would be, like, no. There's already going to be new characters introduced. There's no reason that Bella Ramsey would be recast. I don't even understand why people were saying that.
Yeah, and I think everyone's returning. Like, there's even the writer, Neil Druckmann, everyone's returning for season 2. There hasn't been anyone saying, oh, they're not returning. So...
And some of the characters are going to get much bigger roles in season 2, like Tommy.
Yeah, Tommy's going to get a lot bigger role. Same with Tommy's wife, too.
By the way, side note, I just wanted to say that I love that the implication is clear that both Joel and his brother love them some black women. Because we never see Joel's wife, but his daughter is clearly half black, and then his brother is married to a black woman, so yeah.
Another change from the game that ruined the series.
God. Honestly, like people were like, some people who knew literally nothing about the game thought that that girl was gonna be Ellie. I knew that she wasn't because I knew from promotional that it was gonna be Bella Ramsey. So I'm like, as soon as I saw her, I'm like, well, she's gonna die very soon. But I think that she probably could have done Ellie. Like she's a good actress, and they gave her like a whole episode, and I think she did well. But people would have lost their fucking minds.
Oh, she did phenomenal.
No, she did fine, especially for. I mean, she was only given one episode. That's the thing. A lot of these actors were only given one episode, but they really bring their all to it.
Yeah, and especially like now, I already said I'm doing a video about Walking Dead. None of those characters got fleshed out as much as a character that had one episode, while characters in Walking Dead have a whole freaking season,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't feel like they're fleshed out enough, like Joel and Ellie.
Because they're not allowed to move forward in The Walking Dead. Like they have to. It has to get back to status quo. It's like Family Guy or something. Like no matter what happens, you got to get back to status quo because the story is not really designed to move forward.
No, it's not. It's really not.
It's like, you can watch an episode of The Simpsons where like Bart becomes a millionaire, but by the end of the episode they're going to be back to status quo because that's just how those sitcoms work. And Walking Dead is like that.
Yeah, they really took a zombie show and pretty much made it a sitcom.
Yeah.
I don't know how they did that, but they did it.
Yeah, no, I think the writing team was like very solid here. Like, I mean, obviously having Neil Druckmann on board helped a lot because it stuck to a lot of his vision for the game and expanded on it. But I mean, even watching all of the behind the scenes segments, you could tell they bounced off each other a lot. They bounced ideas off each other, and they really fed each other creatively. And that really resulted in, they both seemed like they're really into it and they really wanted to do cool things while remaining faithful to the source material. We didn't get any Danny kind of forgot about the Iron Fleet moments in those behind the scenes.
Like Sam being deaf.
Yeah. Exactly. Like that's something that they added, and they cast a real deaf little boy for that role. So obviously it's cool to have that representation, and it's just, I mean, obviously that's a very tragic episode, but I do think that those changes, they just add a whole element to like the idea that like Sam has to like the trust that Sam and Henry have is that much deeper because they have to communicate with signing. And yeah, little things like that just improve. Like I said, the character of Kathleen, her motivations and stuff. I kind of expected her to last a little longer, but I do feel like, it was cool to, it's nice to have a face. It's not interesting when you're playing a video game, you're going to get some faceless bad guys, whatever, like it's a video game. But when you're watching a show, it's hard to be invested in a scene if you're just fighting random CGI nobodies. Like it's much more impactful to like have a characterization behind who you're going against, because the whole conceit of the show is like there really aren't any heroes or villains here. Everybody in this show does some incredibly fucked up stuff, but it's like it's like how far would you go to protect your own, and even if that meant hurting somebody else. And we see so many of these characters have to do the unthinkable to protect their people. Very few people are acting purely out of just being evil, except for that fucking pastor. Most of them, they aren't like cartoonishly evil. They're just motivated by like sometimes revenge or like just keeping their families alive. So yeah, I think that's very compelling. I'm very into those kind of narratives that push the limits of like human behavior and expectations of morality and that kind of thing.
You're telling me you don't like a villain with a twirling mustache that has no backbone?
No, I don't like Darman type villains that are just like cartoonishly evil and there's nothing redeeming about them, and they're very unlike most people that you will actually meet in your real life. It's just like, okay, like if you can't humanize the villain, then what are we doing here? So yeah, I think that and humanize is not the same as sympathize, which a lot of people get mixed up. But yeah, I like seeing that sort of morally gray, ambiguous type of thing to it.
That's what makes the ending so powerful, because everyone still disagreeing.
God, I was arguing with people on TikTok last night. People were fighting for their lives about that ending. I'm just like, boy. Everyone, to me, I think a lot of people were having the wrong conversation. Like, it's not about if somebody's right or wrong. It's just like, what parent wouldn't do that in that situation? I mean, I don't know. It's just like, yeah. Well, anyway, and it's not that, and also just like in Game of Thrones, even if you act out of quote unquote righteous anger or whatever or revenge, that doesn't mean that it won't come back to haunt you. That doesn't mean that there won't be consequences for it down the road, as we'll probably see. So, yeah.
Yeah. Either way, a phenomenal show.
Yes, absolutely. Definitely worth a watch. I want to go back and rewatch some of the episodes, particularly episode 3. It's just really beautiful television, really good art. And I am grateful that, that we are able to experience, such television.
Yeah, and video games are finally getting the opportunity after they getting actual love from the creator and not being shoot out in Hollywood or anything like that.
Yeah. We'll have to see how the Mario movie is.
Let's not talk about that.
Let's see how the Mario movie is.
Let's not.
We're gonna watch the Mario movie.
No.
We're gonna watch the Mario.
No.
Movie. We're going to watch the Mario movie.
I jump over Goombas.
Anyway, I think that's about it for today's episode. So thank you so much for listening, and make sure you follow us. Make sure you subscribe on the YouTubes to see regular content every month, and also my streams on Twitch, which happen pretty much weekly, or certainly during the weekends, and my other podcasts, Close Encounters of the Blurred Kind, and all of the other shit that I have. I'm sure the links will be in the description. Do you have anything to plug?
No, this time.
Okay,
Other
cool.
than upcoming videos that I'm planning on working on, probably like Walking Dead, and hopefully by the time this podcast comes out, the animation video will be out.
Yeah, we're working on that one as well. I still have to record some parts for that, but yeah. Thank you so much for listening.